Before we can get to the self-indexes, we have to take a little detour, introduce this cool trick or transformation on text, the Burrows-Wheeler transform, that the coolest of these self-indexes are built on. For a moment, it will look like it has nothing to do with text indexing. But again, like for RMQ, bear with me for a little bit. It'll come back. For everything we've done so far, we need the text and essentially in fast memory to do random access on the characters. And that can be a problem. For a single genome these days is a bit questionable if, I don't know, 4 GB of main memory is not a big deal. If you think for the next thing, the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, has recently collected, I think they've done 100,000 genomes. So multiply your 4 GB with 100,000 and you do get into trouble for main memory unless you're maybe the beefiest of beefy machines, very expensive, can still hold that in one place. But it's getting very questionable. So you want to compress, and then that means you can't explicitly store the text anymore. That's my point. Take it for that. And so we can't use the enhanced suffix array as is. That seems inevitable as long as we want to reconstruct the text, except we can compress, right? Okay. Maybe this is useful to keep for terminology. People call this the encoding model. We want to answer queries about some piece of data, but we're allowed to, we have to keep essentially the data around to be able to answer these queries, because the queries themselves allow you to reconstruct the data itself. But we don't need to keep the data in the original form. We're allowed to encode it in some new way. That's what this self-index is also going to do. Okay, general like end of advertisement, but the research field that talks about these things is computing over compressed data in a more general sense, where data could be other things than text. In the interest of time, let me move on to the definitions. The first thing we need is a cyclic shift of a text. So here's a text, here's a cyclic shift, where all that has happened is take a bunch of characters and move them at the end, to the end of the string. And you can do this with any number of characters. In general, as this example maybe shows, you can not necessarily reconstruct where you came from unless you know by how many characters you shifted. But standard trick that we've applied in all of the previous chapters was append a unique character, the end of word character. And then of course you can recover from any cyclic string what the original string was, because you keep shifting until this thing is at the end. That's the setup. Now the Burrows-Wheeler transform, this mysterious text transformation, works as follows. In a text with this end of word marker, you build all the cyclic shifts. There's going to be exactly n plus 1 of them if the text had n characters plus the new one. Then we sort those lexicographically, and then comes the weird and crazy stuff. Take the last column, the last character of all the cyclic shifts, and you read that top to bottom in sorted order. That's the BWT. Example, here's some obscure text. Here are all the cyclic shifts. You see that the $ walks all the way to the left. And then you sort these alphabetically, which gives you this. I'm here again assuming $ comes before all the other characters, and the rest is just the ASCII order. And the last column in this arrangement is the BWT. So you turn this text into this. Why on earth that should be useful, we'll come to soon. A quick observation, because you've wrote down every cyclic shift exactly once. You've written down every shift exactly once. Every character in the text occurs in every column exactly once. For example, the first A occurs in the first column here at the top, because that's where the first guy was. In the second column, it appears exactly down here, and so on and so forth. And that's true after sorting, because you're just swapping color rows around. In particular, also the last column consists of one copy from every index in the text. In other words, the BWT is a permutation of the characters of the input text. It's going to be the same number of the same characters, but in a weird jumbled order. That's just from the construction. Let's talk about how we can find this, because it involves sorting, and we've talked about sorting strings already a good deal. Indeed, it is nothing but suffix sorting if you look at it from the right perspective. And the reason is that these dollar symbols mean never ever are you going to look in a comparison at the characters after them. Because the dollar symbol is unique, it occurs exactly once in each column. So whenever the comparison supposedly reaches the dollar symbol, you're not going to look after, because that one decides the comparisons for sure. So between any two strings, if you compare them, at the very last with the first of the dollars, you know which is smaller, which is bigger. The dollar decides. That was not a political statement of currencies. So that means if you sort the suffixes, then that there's these cyclic shifts there is just a kind of management. You're dragging some baggage around, but they don't influence the sort order. In particular, you can reconstruct the Burrows-Wheeler transform just from the suffix array. If you have the suffix array L, then the ith character in the Burrows-Wheeler transform is obtained by taking whatever the ith suffix is, but then the previous character, because again, this is wraparound, right? A cyclic shift. You obtain where this character, this character here is the one that comes before the character here. That's exactly the example where the wraparound is needed is modulo n. So the -1 needs to be modulo n. N+1. If you have the suffix array, you can construct the Burrows-Wheeler transform from it easily. And we know how to compute the suffix array in linear time. So at least in principle, if we're okay with having this intermediate suffix array, then we can compute the Burrows-Wheeler transform efficiently. So that part's done. Again, if you were to use this in practice, there's good libraries that do this directly, also avoiding the extra working memory. These are interesting methods, but let's not get into this here. A tiny detour, just motivating why the BWT is at least historically coming from text compression and not data structures. It turns out that for typical kinds of texts, this BWT is more compressible than the original text in a specific technical sense. And the reason for that is that sorting groups by context. Specifically, the character here in the last column is whatever precedes these characters. And so we have the example with LF. If you look at the suffixes that start with LF, these three, all of the occurrences of LF in our original text started or were preceded with an A, because it was alf eats alfalfa. It's a proper English sentence, right? So these three A's here are lumped together because they are much more likely, in this case 100% likely, if after them comes LF. In other words, sometimes it's not as extreme, but you could say if you look at these, all the suffixes that start with an A, then the corresponding characters here are the things that come before an A. And usually that is giving you some information. In English text, there's some letter combinations that are much more frequent than others. If you know what comes after a character, you know some information about the character itself. It gives you a skewed distribution. And then these characters in the BWT will locally follow this distribution. Okay. So BWT groups the characters by their context, and that specifically means if a character can be predicted with less entropy than otherwise from what follows after it, then the BWT will have locally a low entropy among the characters. There'll be regions where you see mostly A's, or regions where you see mostly L's, these kind of things. In the compression context, you can then use another transformation that turns this locally low entropy into globally low entropy by something like a difference transform, conceptually. The method is different. For those of you who've seen it, you will know what I mean, but you could maybe imagine that you locally rename the letters so that this locally low entropy becomes a global thing that you can then exploit with standard tricks like Huffman codes, for example. We're not going to do that here. This is just the historical context is entirely from text compression. And it turns out the BWT has a few other very useful properties that are certainly related to this, but are in a way stronger or more useful. Just to illustrate, this kind of grouping becomes more powerful if you have a bigger text, because then you have more things that share context, and these are always grouped by the sorting. So here's some text that's a bit repetitive, but to make it small enough for the slide, maybe that's fair. And what you see is that there's many runs of the same character in the BWT. And that is something you typically see with natural language text. Indeed, you can even prove. We're not going to do it. I'm just citing the results. If you take the BWT and you run length compress it, which is, I'm just going to write down here, this is 7 times an H. Then comes 2 times an A, 2 times a V, 4 times a space. That's all I'm doing. And I call the number of such runs that I have to do when I write down the BWT R. Then here's some example from previously. Here R would be 12, whereas the length of the text was 17. So we saved a little bit by having these runs here. In this bigger example, we even get to half of the length of the text. And this is quite typical to continue. And what you can prove is that this number of runs is related to what you get from a Lempel-Ziff compression method. Again, if you don't know what Lempel-Ziff 77 is, it's not important. It's a way to use essentially local redundancy in that you have phrases that occur again, substrings that are repeated. And this is about the best method to exploit that in some sense. If that is then the size of the text in this compression, then this R from the BWT is only slightly bigger. That's one reason why it works so well in compression. That's all I'm going to say about compression. That's kind of the historical context where BWT first arose, but it's not the main application these days.